Hello, it is Monday, November 21st at precisely 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, USA in the year 2022. This is my video journal, and so I've been systematically challenging the United States military to a pistol duel or wrestling match, non-lethal. We'll continue with that. So I believe I'm on Sergeant First Class. If you achieve the rank of Sergeant First Class in the United States military or its equivalent in any of the branches of the United States military, I challenge you to a duel using non-lethal compressed air paintball gun dueling pistols. Since we do not have the prototypes, we will revert to a wrestling match using scholastic rules. If you win the duel, you will delay me challenging the next rank down in the military by 6 months. You will also receive a piece of my art valued at millions of dollars. If I win the duel, you must find funds in your budget to fund my non-lethal or my smart weapons company. The first task would be to deliver these compressed air dueling pistols. And if you cannot find approval for that budget, you must use your own personal funds to fund it. In return, I will give you a stock certificate giving you partial ownership of the company, and or a piece of my art valued at least thousands of dollars. If you ignore or do not accept this duel, you are first and foremost a coward, and the blood and death of any military action around the globe is on your hands for not validating and justifying this form of modern warfare, a form of warfare that values hand-to-hand combat skills and marksmanship, two sets of skills taught to almost every military around the globe, and to almost every employee, every military personnel within that military as a basic training exercise. Alright, so this segment is going to be for fans of my Masonic Storyteller video series I did while I was in Aalborg, Denmark. I'm dressed in red, the color of royalty. I'm wearing a bowler cap. This segment, I'm going to do this one and the one next week, is designed to be shown to royalty around the globe as a way to convince them, hypothetically, to fund my dueling pistol company that uses compressed air, radio synced, wirelessly synced dueling pistols. So I'm going to tell a story. I'm trying this out for the first time. It's been bouncing around in my head, but I haven't really told it. But just a precursor, I did the Masonic Storyteller series. I think it was 45-part series in Aalborg, Denmark. I was the court jester. I was making fun of all royalty, especially the nouveau riche, the billionaire class of the United States that could be classified as a new royalty that I was making fun of, as a way to ingratiate myself with the royalty of Europe, hypothetically, which did not work out. They did not fund me or continue to keep me safely within their borders. Now I'm going to make the argument for why I should be considered royalty. I made a video over there as well that said I'm the king of democracy, and I believe I qualify as the king of direct democracy. But we're going to talk about the royalty of ancient times. So in ancient times, as I argued in my new movie, Respiration, the royalty, the leadership, was in sync with wireless waves that were being emitted from the sun and the stars. And they heard voices, they thought it was a god, they formed religions, but they also were in sync with these other galaxies. It wasn't a human god, human-like god. It was just bodies, heavenly bodies, sending out wireless waves, and people who are wirelessly sensitive, like myself, being in tune with those heavenly bodies. So, as great civilizations developed, there was an aristocrat class, the class of lords that was directly under the king, that surrounded them, king or queen that surrounded them most of the time. And I believe these aristocrats, in conjunction with the masons, the stonemasons, figured out that beautiful stones like granite and marble emitted radiation, a low form of radiation, which it does. Granite does, I know that. So they wanted to be in tune with the sun and the heavenly bodies as well. So they thought if they surround themselves with these stones, that maybe it would ingratiate their brain waves into being in tune like the king, the king and their families, who were naturally wireless sensitive. So they convinced the king that if they're feeling overwhelmed by the wireless waves from the heavenly bodies, they should build these great palaces and buildings and monuments with this granite and marble, and it'll block the waves coming from the sky, so that they can rest more easily, they can sleep at night, they're not being inundated with the wireless waves, sun flares and whatnot coming up. So they convinced the king to build these palaces out of granite, marble, and other precious, or not precious stones, but stone from the earth. So they do. And then the nobility, the lords, the aristocrats are in these buildings, and the radiation emitting off of the granite has a interesting side effect. It makes all of these aristocrats sociopaths. They care about no one but themselves. They infight amongst themselves. They don't care about the peasants. They don't care about the factory workers. They only care about themselves. And it creates sociopaths, the radiation from the stone. In the meantime, you have the millers. I'm Mitch Miller. You have the millers that are out there. They're not the farmers, but they own mills, and they're out there milling grains into fine flour to bake bread and things like that, and milling other things. And these millers oftentimes live in the mill house, right where the millstones are grinding with each other, not 24/7, probably not at night, but maybe, but they are in close quarters with two stones grinding at each other all day. And it's my belief that the vibrations put off by these stones had their own kind of frequency that inundated Miller's brains with, it prepared them for a time when there would be so much artificial wireless waves that all these different machines need to operate, all the AI, all the supercomputers, all the factory floors. They need this Wi-Fi to operate and to be productive and to produce things for society. So the grinding of these stones prepared millers all over the world. There's millers all over the world for a time when there would be so much artificial wireless waves that they could still operate and be in tune with anything else that needed to be in tune with. So that's why I argue that a miller, usually a peasant class person, should be elevated to royalty. But back to our nobility, they all are sociopaths. They're surrounded by this granite, by these stones, stones that came from lava, magma, from within the Earth's core, and they push, as society comes into the modern times, the Industrial Revolution into modern times, they push for our energy infrastructure to be geared towards what they know, and that's radioactive material like the sun, radiation emitting things. So when they have the opportunity to have nuclear energy, they push for that rather than sustainable energy and things like that. So, and we look at who pretty much brought nuclear energy to fruition, and it was out of a time of conflict, out of necessity to end a world war. But we have Einstein, who worked in a patent office, and that patent office, I can't confirm this, but it was probably made of some kind of molten stone, or there was some granite within it. It was a government building, and perhaps the radiation emanating off of this is what finally clicked and helped Einstein develop the nuclear bomb, and and then the nuclear energy programs came off of that. So now you have the millers all over the world that are hopefully pushing for sustainable energy sources, but you have a class of aristocrats and nobility that are sociopaths, and their time is waning. It's time to move forward into a better future with a better royalty that doesn't seek power, doesn't seek riches, which most royalty just have a namesake position now, but they can do some forms of reaching out and quelling disputes and things. So that's where we're at. I'm asking for justification from royalty around the world to help resolve issues in a way that doesn't lead to bloodshed and killing, but has to do with a honor system that we develop to bring royalty from all over the world into the fold of this, and hopefully the militaries. So my first step as declaring myself a royal is to choose a royal wood, a wood from trees, obviously, that would be my official wood of choice for certain items, which I'll get into in the next segment. So I made a table, my dining room table, which I figure I'll probably be laid out on when I die. I made it from American wormy chestnut. So that's what I choose as my royal wood. It shows blight. Worms ate the wood, and there's tiny wormholes all through the wood. The American wormy chestnut had a blight of worms, and it killed all the American chestnut off. And then the Chinese chestnut came into the United States. but it killed it off. So this wood shows that I believe in nature, in the natural course of things, and how some things are wiped out, but other things are brought in, and then it can come back. Maybe in 1,000 years it'll come back full force. Things like that. So I'll tell a little story about this, where this wormy chestnut came from, because my dad has a loft full of it, which I'll get into in the next segment. But this wormy chestnut came from a house in Utica, Pennsylvania, where I grew up. It was an old house, it had additions on it, and when I was growing up, when I was very young, a minority family lived there. I can't remember if they were Latino, African American mixed, or African American, but one of the few minority families to live in Utica lived in this house. And I'll never forget, I was riding my bicycle by it the one time, and there were large trees out in front of it, and the young boy who was approximately my age, his name was Manny, we played together a little bit. He was out reading a book with his back against the tree, leaning against the tree, and right as I was riding by on my bicycle, a huge branch about this big around in circumference fell out of the tree and hit about 3 feet from where he was sitting. And that blew my mind. He almost got, it could have been disastrous if it would have landed on him. So they lived in this house. Eventually they moved out. My uncle bought the property. He lived right next door. And it was in disrepair. So part of it was taken down except for the first part of the house, the main part that was built first on the old foundation. And my dad figured out that there was wormy chestnut in the walls. And the walls didn't have a stud formation like stud and drywall and plywood on the outside, but there were almost 2-inch thick planks of wormy chestnut doubled up. The seams were offset, and that's what made up the outer wall of this house. And then there were oak joists across it. I used some of the oak joists to build the table, but I used these long planks. It's over 8 foot long table made of wormy chestnut. So that's my story about where that wormy chestnut came from, and find out on the next segment what I want to do with that wormy chestnut and how you can become involved. Thanks for watching, and I hope you tune in next time. I'll be wearing the hat, and that's how you can tell this is for you. Thanks for watching, and take care.